Welcome to another Paintabilities. I'm Shelly James, and I'm excited to be on here with you again today, sharing another lesson in fruit. And today I'm going to be using this image that I generated using AI technology. I wanted to do a pineapple, kind of realistic looking pineapple, with a watercolor drippy background and surrounded by some tropical flowers like hibiscus and orchids. And so that's what I put into my AI generator. I used the Copilot tool on PowerPoint to generate this. If you're not familiar with that, I explained how to do that with the barn lesson that I did a few weeks ago. So go back and check that out if you want to see how to do that. So let's get overhead and get started on this pretty design. Okay, so I have created my pattern. I've just got the pineapple here with all the different little segments on the face of it and the top of it, so I know where I want to place it. We're going to freehand paint the flowers in next week's lesson, so make sure you come back and watch again for the finishing lesson on this particular painting. So let's get going with this background. So I put out some colors here, some bright, pretty colors. We've got Look at Me Blue, Daffodil Yellow, and Bright Pink. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a mop. This is a 1-inch super soft mop, or a number 12 super soft mop. So it's a 1-inch width brush. And we're going to take some clean water, right? And we're going to get some of this Look at Me Blue. All right, and we're going to start to kind of pull this down. I'm going to get more water, and we're going to kind of take this and canvas and just tip it, get more of that color and more water, right? And just keep that kind of running. And I have a paper towel set underneath so it'll catch all the drips. All right. And we're just going to kind of pull this down, let it get on the edges and come down. All right. And so this is going to be on the left-hand side, just continuing with a little more of the paint and water. And we're just going to touch it, see how that runs. And a little more here. And this is going to go, you have to do this kind of quickly. And we're going to tip the canvas so that it runs off on the paper towel. Okay, now I'm going to clean that out of my brush, and I'm going to get more clean water. And we're going to come and get some of the daffodil yellow and some of this bright pink, and we're going to mix it together to make kind of a peachy color. And we'll bring that down from the top. Let that come around the right side. A little more water. And again, lifting the canvas so that it runs. Picking up more of that color. I'm just going to let that go right over the pineapple in the background. It'll be fine. So more of that bright pink and a little bit of yellow. And the water. And this is very watery. You can see it's running. Now I'm going to get just the pink. And we'll add some more of that down here in the bottom. Clean that brush out again. And let's get a little more of the blue right up here. A little bit stronger right there. All right, so that's just covering our whole canvas. And then what I'm going to do next is we're going to let this run. You can give it a little tap if you want to. All right, and then you can take a heat tool or blow dryer and dry this in this. So I'm going to do that and we'll come right back. Okay, so we're back now and the background is all nice and dry and I'm ready to start working on our pineapple. And so I put some other colors out here and I'll go through those with you. This is Wicker White. This is Marigold, which is kind of a yellow ochre color, but it's a little bit brighter. But you can use yellow ochre with a little bit of white if you don't have Marigold. Then we have Coffee Latte, Teal, and Citrus Green. Okay, so first thing I want to do now is we're going to wash over this whole pineapple surface with a thin layer of the Marigold. So I've got a 3/4 inch natural hair mop. We're going to get that slightly damp and let's touch that off on paper towel because I just want a little bit of water with this Marigold, okay, just to kind of help it move. And so we're going to go right over the surface of the pineapple. And I'm using this with that little bit of water in there so that it's thin enough that you'll see the lines from all the little segments on the face of the pineapple. And then you can easily do, you want to be careful not to scrub though because it's lifting off some of my pattern marks here. Then you can easily do all the little segments with the teal and not have to guess, okay? So it is picking up some of that, smearing some of my lines here, but that'll be okay. Okay, so we've covered that whole thing with the Marigold. Now I'm going to get just a little bit of white with that Marigold, and we're going to come over this right shoulder just to kind of lighten that up just a little bit, and that's all we need for that brush. Okay, so now what I want to do is let's get a 12 flat, get that damp, and we're going to work with primarily the teal with a little bit of the citrus green worked in. Okay, so loading it with teal, and I'm going to go pick up some citrus green and kind of work those two colors together. Get a real pretty vibrant teal color. Okay. All right, so what we want to do is let's come down so we're close. Okay, and I'm going to shift this over here. Then I can work with my colors. All right, so right up here, we can come right in here on each of these little segments. We'll do one here. They're little kind of half round shapes. And these were going to be kind of angled slightly because it's going around the curve of the pineapple. So you're just going to do this on all these segments. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to side stroke a little extra teal on these now. And that'll keep kind of the bottom left side of each of these a little darker. And as you go down, they're getting a little bit larger because of the size of the girth of the pineapple. And then the ones further down, especially on the sides, are actually going to get covered by flowers. So we don't have to worry about, especially don't have to worry about being perfect there. And if the 12 flat is too much for you to maneuver in this space, you could use a 10 if it makes it a little easier. Okay, so finishing up here on the bottom. And with pineapples, the riper they get, the more yellow their skin turns. So this one's pretty ripe. Okay, there we go. All right, so not looking very special yet, but there's an ugly phase and we're going to get through that to get to where we want to be. All right, so now what I want to do is let's switch to a 6 flat. Okay, and we're going to come back to our marigold color. And let's side stroke a little bit of coffee latte. Okay, and so what you're going to do with these is they're going to come right up in the middle here. There's a little point, and that needs to be stronger. There we go. All right, so you're creating that little point and then kind of pulling down. So point up and then back down. I'm going to get just a touch of white because that marigold's just not quite bright enough. There we go. And so we're going to do this on each one of these. So that may be a little tedious to watch, but this is the process. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and then I'll come right back and show you when it's all done. Okay, so I've completed all those little steps of filling in all those little points on the fronts of those segments. And then what I want to show you next is something I want to do just to kind of spruce them up a little bit. And that is I'm going to grab a little bit of citrus green and we're going to sweep that up on one side of a few of these. So here and there. So you're just sweeping it up on one side of the point or down. Just grabbing citrus. This is still the 6 flat. Just adding a little bit of pretty color in with this kind of yellow and brown skin here. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to take this daffodil yellow, and on the middle of each of these, you're going to pull a little chisel stroke down. So we're going to start here, here. A little bit of that. You can grab a little bit of white too. And on the sides, you're going to curve them slightly. Center's going to be straight. You push and lift. Short little strokes. See that? Just a little chisel daisy stroke. Daffodil, side stroke a little bit of white. And then you're leading with the daffodil as you pull the stroke down. Curve. Curve to the left. Center straight. Right, you're going to curve to the right. And there we go. Okay, so I just want to point out to you, and part of this process of doing the little points and everything, I did come around the outside edges because from the side you'll see some of these points kind of angled out. And so they've got just little bits of coffee latte coming out, right like that. Okay, so there's our pineapple. Now I'm just going to let that dry. We're going to do one last thing to it, but I want that to dry first. So while we're waiting on that, we can do the crown. So I'm going to take a 16 flat for that and get that damp. And we're going to come to our teal and our citrus green. All right. Plenty of paint. And then I'm going to get a little bit of white on the citrus edge first for the background strokes. Okay, so the leaves that are further away and in the back. Let me get just a little bit more white side stroke that. There we go. Okay, so we want to do the ones in the back first. So we're going to come out here, leading with that light color, and you're just going to flip out and then pull back in. Okay, so we'll get these in first. Reverse, so you go out to the point, reverse direction, slide back in. So we always work from the back forward. Okay, let's come back to that teal and citrus. Get just a little bit of white, and we'll come through here. Point. and pull it back. So the more of these you can do, the more full it's going to look. So if you do just these few in the background, I'm going to come with more teal now, not quite so much citrus. And just chisel from like a side view. And let's lead with the citrus and pull the teal. There we go. Okay, so these are flopping over and you're really just seeing them from the side. Okay, little bits. All right, and then let's do this one here. 2 point, and then pull it back in. And then these are just chisel strokes coming in. Okay. All right, now we can focus more on the ones in the middle and the center. So these I'm going to make with the green to the outside tip. Okay, so we'll start from back here in the back, and we're going to slide up and back down. Okay, so that's darker. It's going to bring it forward a little bit. Actually, let's add just a touch of daffodil yellow to that citrus green. Brighten that up just a little bit more. There we go. So not white. White will dull it, but the yellow will brighten up that citrus green. Out here, tip, reverse direction, push, and stand up. All right, now let me just rotate this for a minute. And we'll come from here, slide and stand to the tip, reverse direction, push, and roll it into the center. Okay. And do one more on this side. And then we can put it back again. All right, so we're getting a real pretty look here. Get a little more of that daffodil yellow with the citrus green. And we'll come right here, go over that one. And then roll it in. Okay, it's important to roll it in so that they don't look flat. These are being looked at from different angles and sides and curves, and so it helps if you can give it a little bit of a roll as you come back in. Okay, now these ones here in the front, we're going to come up. Oops. We're going to come up this way to a flat and then come back down. All right, let's come up a little higher to a flat and come back down. And then I'm going to take a smaller brush. All right, so this is the 10 flat. And you can come in with those same colors. And all you're going to do is right here where it's rolled over, you're going to push and then stand up to the point. Now I'm going to get a little bit more yellow on that. There we go. So it shows up. And we can do a little shading later to help that stand up. But that's how you're going to do those. So I'm going to set that 10 flat aside. And we'll do all these flat strokes first. And then we'll add those points, okay? So here, let's slide this one in. Here will be a flat one. And this one we can just pull it in. Actually, let's come up here. All right, and then I'll show you with that 10 right here, we're gonna lean it off to the left. Let me get a little bit of white and do that so it stands out. There we go. Okay, so let's do this one that way too. Okay, switch the brushes. So all of those are going to have rolled tips on them. We're just bringing those strokes in, and then we'll come back and add the rolls. Okay, and then these front ones are kind of brown, but I first need to pull some of this teal up to create the crown and the stem. Okay, all right, and then let's come to this 10 again. Get some white on there. All right, so right here, let's turn it this way. Stand it up. I'm going to side stroke that white and let's see if that helps it. There we go. And this one right here. Side stroke that white, make it strong. And that'll help it stand up. Okay, so now let's do one here. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean that 10 flat, and then let's come to our coffee latte. And we'll side stroke some teal. So coffee latte and then teal on one half. Okay, now I'm thinking on the one edge of the coffee latte, I want a little bit of white. All right, and so all we're going to do here is little short strokes from the stem. So you're kind of overlapping these and they're just flopping over, coming out of that stem area. Okay. Want that white to show up there. All right, so there we have our little crown on the top of our pineapple. And what I want to do now is I'm going to take a 3/4 flat, and I need some floating medium. Okay, and so I'm going to load this. Let's get that damp first. Load this with floating medium. And then I'm going to side stroke the teal and citrus blend, but it's with lots of medium, so it's going to be thin. Okay. And I've let that come about 2/3 of the way across my brush. And then what we're going to do is on this side of the pineapple, we're going to stroke a little more of the teal. Okay, just to kind of set that overall color shade, right? And then I'm going to do the same thing with some yellow. So medium, pardon me, medium, and we're going to get daffodil yellow and a little bit of white. So lots of medium, so it's thin. And over here on this side, we're going to wash over that with a brightener, a little bit more white. There we go. Okay, just so it makes it look a little more round when you do that. I'm going to come back to that citrus and teal and get a little more teal and then a little coffee latte. And down here, we can kind of shade the bottom. There we go. And come up under here. All right. Now this should be fairly dry. And what I want to do for that is, let's get that 16 flat. And medium. And we're going to side stroke some of that same teal and coffee latte, or excuse me, yeah, teal and coffee latte. Okay, just to get a little bit darker shade. And what you're going to do is you're going to come underneath these little flipped over pieces. But this has to be dry first, so if it's not dry, wait. All right, but see, I'm being careful. That's not dry. Okay. There, just pull that down a little bit so they look, oh, that really helped make it more dimensional. So let's pull this down. So that's teal with coffee latte. It creates kind of a darker brown. Okay, and come under this one. Pull that back a little bit. And right here. And pull it down. Okay, Now, one other thing you can do to kind of help those folded over ones pop a little bit is you can come and side stroke some white, medium on your brush, and then side stroke a little bit of white. And you can float just a little bit of white on the lighter edge. And that'll lift them up a little bit. Okay. There we go. And you can even do, I'm thinking what might look kind of cool is if we took a little side load of this bright pink. And you can come to some of the tips on the big leaves. A little bit stronger. There we go. And you can float a little bit of that pink over some of these leaves. And that kind of pops them up a little bit. And don't do too many of them, but just a couple. Let's do this one here. There. So just a few of them looks kind of fun. Okay, so you can give that a try. And I think, let's come back out here and take a quick look at this. I believe I've got it right where I want it to be. There we go. All right, so we've got this darkened bottom. We've got all the little spines and everything done on the pineapple. And we are all set for this lesson. So come back next week and we will be adding all the beautiful orchids and hibiscus and leaves and things around the base and side of this. And I can't wait to come back and do that with you. So we'll see you soon. Check us out next week. Make sure you give us a thumbs up if you're liking the lessons. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified every time I come on. Live lessons and recorded ones too. Thanks so much, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.